about Paromita. And Paromita is, of course, an award-winning documentary filmmaker, and writes in the midday every Sunday, so I'm sure all of you read, even this morning. But there I was thinking, you're a very... I know about you and Khamosh Pani, which was this incredible film, and I still remember seeing it many, many years ago when I lived in New York, and being completely moved by it. And I thought you'd be this serious person. You are. But then I saw a picture of her, playing a minor goddess with all of these many hands, and I thought clearly there is another side. And I'm looking forward, as I'm sure all of you are, to hearing where both of these lead.
So I'm going to talk a bit about my filmmaking style and how I arrived at it, why I arrived at it, why it's so important to me to make films in this way and not in other ways. But I just want to preface that by saying it's not that I think that other kinds of filmmaking is not valid or not good. Even filmmaking with which I disagreed and from which my style was formed through that disagreement, I still believe that all forms of filmmaking matter, all forms of writing, all kinds of political thought and all artistic movements always matter. It's just that different things matter at different times and in different places, and it's kind of nice to be open to the fact that there's no one fixed way of talking about the world. And so while I won't be referring to other kinds of filmmaking too much, please don't think that I'm dissing any other kind of filmmaking when I talk about my own work. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, because all artists are just pretending they want to talk about other things, but we really just want to talk about ourselves. So I come from kind of regular middle class family. Maybe not so regular in the sense that mixed marriages, like 2 or 3 generations down, mixed marriages, maybe English speaking or English educated rather, 2 generations, very migratory family. But in every other way, very like a typical middle class Indian family, where parents are all about like, you must go to a good school and you please do well because we don't have a lot of money to do stuff for you. All that is, everything is fine. You should do things you like, but you must do well at school because that's all we can do. We can give you good education. Which is, okay, fine. We're studying hard, you're going to different schools, you're trying to be the best you can. But at the same time, in my household, it was very confusing because it was very important to have a good time. This was like, more than coming first in class, you have to have a good time. And so I always was surrounded by this kind of importance of having fun with other people, liking music. There were a lot of books in the house, lots of different poetry. And also what I remember is about a lot of different levels of things, right? So there'll be Begum Akhtar. There'll be a lot of Hindi film music, and it's not as if we were ever told one is superior to the other. It was all kind of just there. A lot of people, there was a lot of enjoyment of life. And so the other thing that we would keep being told, my sister and I, was that you have to figure out what you like to do. Like, we cannot tell you what you're going to do in life. Like, you have to work, you have to make a life, but now the onus is on you. We're going to give you some opportunities, and you have to figure it out. So, and when I look back, I think this was the most extraordinary thing about my life. I realized that only when I grew up, that it's not like this in every home, where you are told, please understand what you like. And what you like will be important enough for us to try to think about it and help you to do it if we can. But it's confusing also. It's hard because the rest of the world is not really encouraging you to think for yourself. It's very difficult when I felt school was very miserable for me because everybody always felt like this is a very strange thing. Why is such an intelligent girl always saying such odd things? Right? And that was the way I went through my whole school life, feeling like everybody thinks I'm smart, but somehow they don't think I'm acceptable. And it's only when I went to college that somehow began to change, and I realized you get rewarded at least with like mutual excitement by saying things you really feel. And so I just kept following one thing after the other. I had no plan. Only when I would be asked, what do you want to do now? College is finishing. Then I'd be like, oh my God, I have to give my dad an answer. And then I'd be like, there's a new course, it's called mass communications. I'm going to do it. And my father would be like, okay, and then what will be the career prospects? And I'd be like, oh my God. I can go into advertising. But I didn't really know what happens in advertising. I had no idea. I was just like going from one thing to the other thing, right? When I was studying mass communications, I discovered that there's this thing called documentary film. Because in my house, like most houses, nobody ever watched any documentaries. Nobody ever referred to any documentary ever. And yeah, it was that films division thing we saw before the movie, but I can't honestly say I've retained any memory of it. It used to be there sort of on the screen as you waited for the film to start. I loved the first documentary I saw. Like as soon as I saw it, it was like love at first sight for me. Because I saw that in this all the things that I liked. Like, I had a lot of political feelings, so I had no political background. I didn't really know political theories like that, or even the history of left political movements in India, or even properly the history of India for that matter. But it's just that I had some kind of instinctive desire to be talking about political ideas. But I also saw that people's everyday life, something artistic could also be there in this form. It didn't feel like it's a form where everything will be separated, but rather it was a form that felt very capacious. So I developed this thing that I want to make documentaries. But it was again very ignorant. You know, it was not like I had studied the history of documentary, or it was just a kind of instinctive thing. Mujhe ye acha lagta hai, I think I'm going to do this. And I started working when I announced that this is what I'm going to do, there was like full matam in my house. And like, itni achhi ladki documentary film banayegi. We had so many expectations from you. We didn't think you would do such a boring job, right? So this fear of boredom in my household was like now all around me. And I kept trying to say, it's not boring. I'm telling you, it's very exciting. But they were just like, beta, please, you must stand on your own feet, but you must also do something which you really like. When I began working in documentary, I realized that, you know, the opposite thing used to happen. Like, in this world of documentary filmmaking, and it was a world, right, before. Things are very different today, but, I mean, at risk of revealing my age, I started working in 1990. I was 21 years old that time. So it's a totally different world than it is now. A very small world with very few documentary filmmakers. And of course, documentary meant that you were interested in political movements and certain political ideas, which were left aligned, right? And it was exciting. It was a really, I would recommend this kind of a thing for every middle class person. Come out of your comfort zone completely, come into a world you don't know at all, and learn how to engage with it, be respectful, yet learn, don't take it for granted, don't be respectful without knowing what it's all about, right? So I began working in this world, and what I started seeing was that all the things I had grown up giving importance to, enjoyment, pleasure, fun, other people, love, these things are not important. They're somehow lesser. Really important thing is we must talk about certain kind of political ideas in certain kind of way. Now, it's not that individual people were like that, but that's how they would present a hierarchy of importance, a hierarchy of issues. It's more important to talk about communalism, and it's not important to talk about your mother's life. And actually, that doesn't make sense. But I also began to feel I would go to many screenings. I was a very devoted, fanatical kind of young documentary film assistant. I go to all screenings, every film festival. I go in shawl and sit from 9 in the morning to 9 at the night and watch all the movies, right? But I could see that in the discussions that were happening, it was a very fixed discussion. People will come in, they'll watch a film. The film will be about hardships of people who are very distinct from your own context. Sometimes in your own context, like say people living in slums, but somehow not seeming to be people, but only examples of a type of people, right? And they will say all the right things in the discussion, like this is really terrible, and why doesn't something happen? But I didn't feel that they left the film somehow thinking about it in a personal way. And I also wondered very often that how do we unite the certainty of how certain we feel about what is right and wrong and what is good and bad, with the contradiction of our own life. With the fact that you are a middle class person living in a flat and your guy is the slum dweller who that film is about, but you are hiring her and not really getting involved in her problems. Maybe you can't. How are you really making sense of this contradiction? And if you are a contradictory being, and each one of us is a contradictory being because each one of us is a work in progress. We're trying to be different, but we also carry all the old kind of ideas with us, right? So if we are these things, then how can we make films from such a fixed position? And this was kind of, I think, like a very big turnaround moment for me. That I began thinking about it a lot. Because the other thing that was going on around me then, I think, was that if you're making a documentary film, there's only one way to make it. Nobody ever said that documentary is a personal artistic form. Documentary means making it in a particular way, and the dominant form was the work of Anand Patwardhan, who was my boss, and I was incredibly lucky that I worked with him for 3 years and I learned so many things from him. But he has one way of making films, and that became the kind of dominant manner of making films, right? So, for me, my filmmaking journey really started with all of these questions, but not knowing the answers. And I think now when I'm speaking, I'm also speaking retrospectively, right? The things that I've done and thought about and maybe learned. But at that time, you just kind of feel your way through it. You're just working kind of almost blindly, intuitively, and different things happen. So, to give you an example, I made a film called A Woman's Place, which was about women in the USA, South Africa and India using the law to change their lives. And in Bombay, the story was about Flavia Agnes, the lawyer, and two of her clients, one of whom had an arranged marriage, the other had a love marriage, both getting divorced, and was different divorce cases. So Veena, the girl who had the arranged marriage and was getting divorced, was a very dabang kind of girl. Like, मैं तो सब कुछ बोलने को तैयार हूँ, मैम आप कुछ भी बोल दो, I will say it on camera. I'm like really fiery girl. But when we started interviewing her, she was very hesitant, and then she started crying. So we stopped the camera, asked her why you crying, and she said, I don't want to say bad things about my parents on camera. And I was so struck that she thought she has to say bad things about her parents. Right? So I said, well, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say. And I kept thinking about that afterwards. And one of the things I realized was that, Veena had the classic India's daughter story. She was traditionally brought up. She had hurt her eye when she was a kid, so she was considered not to be good enough for a good match. She had got a match from a family in Malabar Hill, very wealthy. They had asked for a lot of dowry. Parents had agreed. But then she had that very classic Hindi film type of mistreatment for dowry. And finally she was thrown out and she came home and was in the middle of a divorce case. And her parents were like always crying and like, oh no, our daughter has come home, it's so bad. So one way of looking at this story is, Veena's parents are a traditional Indian family and they forced their daughter to get into a marriage that was not good for her. That's one way of it. But think if you are making the film, you're going every day to Veena's house, you're meeting her parents. You can also see this. Veena's parents grew up thinking that once a girl is married, she must live in her husband's house. But her marriage didn't turn out that way. So now Veena's parents are trying to overcome their own conditioning to help their daughter and support her in this fight. And why are they doing it? Not because they are politically correct people, they're only doing it because they love their daughter. And like these kinds of moments made me think a lot that why don't we talk about these feelings when we talk about political ideas? Why is the world of the personal always kept out of the world of the political? Why is it that we don't join these things, that we don't join them? How are we really going to start talking about politics? How are we as individuals going to be leading political lives and understanding politics in an honest way? And how are we going to talk to people we don't agree with? Because that was the other thing. In every discussion, if people don't agree with what is in the film, it becomes like a fight. But actually there is no conversation. And people who are making documentaries all believe that they are morally superior beings. They do, right? I really care about the world, so I'm selfless. And so you must listen to me. But actually, I really don't care about your selflessness, right? I shouldn't have to listen to you because of something that you are, but I should listen to you because of something that you said. So in a way, although documentary filmmakers always said that we are not pretending to be objective, but their form of filmmaking was very so-called objective. You never saw the filmmaker. You never knew who is the person who has made this film. Is this person a bit of a crackpot? Is this person really kind and sweet? Is this person a bit of a, ladaku? How should I understand what this person is telling me? You never get that information. It's always some very noble, impassioned soul who has gone to the frontier of suffering and come back with a story for you. Now by watching the story, you also are uplifted and noble, and that's it. We all go home and the world doesn't change. So, maybe I was 25, so I felt pissed off with all this. And maybe at this age I would be like, yeah, well, whatever, the world doesn't change. But that is the point of being young, right? The point of being young is that you start thinking like, this is really bad and I want to do something different. But you don't know exactly how. So now when I look back, I think here is what I learned. Everything that I know about filmmaking and everything that is in my films, I learned from the game of Antakshari. Does everybody know Antakshari? How many people have never played Antakshari here? Never played. Now you're not from India, so you're excused. But everybody knows how Antakshari goes, right? You basically it's a game of songs where I sing a song and then you have to sing a song whose first word begins with the syllable of the last word of my song, right? So we know it starts with that, shuru karo Antakshari leke Prabhu ka naam, Shah Rukh Khan ka naam, whatever naam, right? And then so you start with ma. You always start with ma, right? So I'm going to start the game. Now we're going to play Antakshari. So, मैंने कसम ली, ओ तूने कसम ली, नहीं होंगे जुदा हम, तूने कसम ली. So now what do you have to sing with? Love. Okay, somebody in the audience sing. Fast. Sing us. Okay, somebody else has to sing with love. So you have to sing. You can't say the word. That's a rule of Antakshari, right? You have to sing. Okay, I'm excusing you because you're tall, but actually you're supposed to sing. You know, so what happened now when you were playing? We made a connection. Yeah. That was really a very important thing. That in Antakshari, you cannot just sing what you feel like. You have to sing something that takes off from where I left off. But you are under no pressure to sing the same type of song in the same kind of way. I mean, it can be a completely different route. I may sing a happy song and then you may sing a very sad song. You don't really know what made you think of that song because there's infinite number of songs in Hindi films that begin with la or ma or ka. You chose one particular song because you happen to know that song. Maybe something in that moment made you remember that song, right? So this thing, that all things are linked, one thing grows from the other, was kind of very important idea for me as a filmmaker. And my filmmaking form is completely like that. It's always one sequence leads to the other sequence, leads to the other sequence by a connection which is not very obvious. A small thing in this sequence will be connected to the next thing in the next sequence, and then by the time you finish watching the film, you see a very big picture of interwoven connections, but not fixed. It's just not fixed and it's just not predictable. All that is predictable is that there will be a connection, and that connection will somehow be coherent, obviously. But we don't know at the end the fixed answer to the question that we set out to ask. So this, along with it, were you having a little bit of fun when you were playing? I mean, obviously you didn't expect to be playing Antakshari at all, so you were a little bit like that. But if we had really started playing, it would be kind of fun, right? And because it would be fun, whether you can actually sing or not, you would be participating in the game, right? And in this game, we would all become at the same level. And that was also very important to me because this top-down, that I am noble, I have found out something, I am telling you this thing to think, it's a very top-down way. It doesn't matter that you say I believe in equality, and it doesn't matter that you say you believe in democracy, but if you don't speak in a form that is democratic and equal, then you are not generating more equality. And you're actually not allowing the world to thrive as it's supposed to thrive, right? So this thing of becoming one through enjoyment, which is something I had learned playing Antakshari as a kid, or even singing songs. Like my mother's father was a music director in Hindi films, right? So we sang a lot of Hindi film songs all the time, and we would always start singing together in the car. As soon as we sat in the car, we would start singing. Okay, and then in the middle of the singing, you would see everybody's power games. Somebody would shift the soul. Somebody would start singing faster. Somebody would say, no, that is not the verse. This is not the verse in this place. So, you know, this thing that you're always together and always separate, always together and always separate, this applies to the world of filmmaking, to ideas, to politics. That is really how life is led. That there's a continuous fight, which sometimes becomes a dance, and sometimes we come together, and then sometimes we diverge, and that dialectics of ideas continues. And I wanted to find a form that would somehow allow that to happen. It's very difficult with film, because film is an essentially passive form, right? I put the film on and you watch it. So where is the sawal of this Antakshari? How to do that in a film was my real question. That fun, that being on the same plane, and that also working with one frame of knowledge. I'm not saying that I have some special knowledge. I want to work with the same kind of knowledge that you have, which for me means that I have to talk of a knowledge that everybody is capable of having. And that knowledge, which brings all people together, is the knowledge of the senses. And that's what art is about, right? That's what art relies on, that anybody can come into an art performance and get something out of it, because art is about the senses. And the more you allow your senses to open up, the more you will get out of the performance, right? So that's why I started to make completely different films than the films that were being made before mine, which were just full of a lot of sensory richness, where there would be a lot of fun. It is like a seduction in that sense, that there should be music, there should be beauty, there should be ideas that are provocative, there should be characters that interest you. It should be so pleasurable that you simply don't resist it. You simply open yourself up to it, and just for the duration of that 15 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever is the duration of the film, you're completely open to seeing the world through my eyes, me, Paromita the filmmaker, not pretending to be not there, but being there with all my quirks. And maybe you go away saying, I don't agree. Maybe you say, I agree with something but not with something else. Maybe you don't talk to me about it in the discussion. Maybe in the Q&A nothing happens. But as long as it gets into your body and you keep thinking about it, I feel you are playing Antakshari with me, right? We're just not doing it overtly. So then there was this other problem for me, that how do I break the audience's habit that they are used to trusting the person who tells them the story, right? So I wanted to make characters whom you can't trust. Because the only way to make you trust yourself as an audience, I want you to decide what you think about this, is for you to stop trusting me. Right? So in making the film, I'll show you a clip so you know what I mean. While making the film, I started doing things that documentary filmmakers don't do, which is I stopped being friendly with the subjects of my films. I stopped this is a kind of classical idea about documentary filmmaking, that you form a relationship with your subject and you have some intimacy with them, from which the film results. And I was just like, that's false, because I'm not their friend. I want to use their life to make my film, and they should not trust me. They should not give me anything that they don't want up there on screen. So how do I do that? I have to do that by having a distant relationship with them. Now if I'm distant with them, is that interesting for the audience? Probably not. So then what is the intimacy that I can have with a stranger that I can bring to the audience? And that's kind of also fair, I feel. Why should the person in the film give you, the audience, an intimacy with them? You have done nothing to earn that intimacy. Intimacy must always be earned, I feel. So that means I, the filmmaker, have to find a different way of talking to the subject, which will help you have intimacy as much as you would have had if you had met them for the first time. How to do that was like a big question for me. So I made a film called Unlimited Girls in 2002. It was a film about feminism. I had by then been working for 10 years. My head was bursting with all these ideas. And Unlimited Girls is very much that film of a young person who's like, now I really want to do everything I want to do. So it was a film like rich with a lot of experimentation. One of the nice things about it was that, like I heard somebody say in a screening yesterday, कि हम लोग करते गए ज़्यादा सोचा नहीं. And the night before the film was premiered, I was like, I'm going to get killed. People are going to say you made a rubbish film. This film does not look like a documentary. So it was a film that is told by a narrator. The narrator's name is Fearless. You never see her. And it's a film that looks at the meaning of feminism in India. So I'm going to show you the beginning of the film. I've been feeling alone and adrift and doubting the choices which have made up my life. Days are still and restless. Not many answers blowing in the wind are there, Bob. And I don't know about you, but when I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I look for, love. You think it's an escape? Oh, come now. Let's just call it a little diversion from the more complicated questions of our life.
After no action for ages, I meet this really attractive man, but we don't agree on a single political issue. What do I do? Forget him?
If you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said yes, but today...
If she keeps waiting for the politically correct man, she'll have a long wait. Forever.
It's just that he's so romantic. Like he called me at 2 a.m. to say he was thinking of me.
Romantic? I think it's highly inconsiderate.
He's romantic. What does romantic mean? It's the same.
Any girl here for a hot chat?
You want to be treated like idiots, like bimbos, but we pretend we're not.
See, I know it's not the thing to say, but I really don't want to end up alone.
Is that the worst possible fate? Alone can mean different things at different times, no?
I don't know if anything can change me when you're alone. Aloneness is a state of mind which does not necessarily have to do with ideology, although
If you obsess about it, ideology and love chapter, I can see why you have a problem with romance.
Love? This is a feminist chat room, fearless.
But it's cool, all you need is love.com.
I don't know why it keeps talking. Sorry.
So,
Girls, PM me for Saxy Chat.
Oh boy, what's a nice girl like me doing in a place like this?
You aren't a feminist.
I see you believe in the direct approach, which must make you one.
And you?
I don't know how to call myself one. Too much of a label.
I don't get it.
If I call myself a feminist, it defines me. Not by my own definition, but other people's. Someone else decides what I'm like.
Feminism is a process, not an identity or label. I won't be defined, I'll be described.
That's the philosophy, and I can relate to it. But in practice, doesn't it really become about joining a group and meeting agendas?
Groups are important for making change on a wider level.
You can't really change people by scolding them in groups.
Can you change them just by setting a good example?
Okay, one sec. Don't get me wrong. I understand that many of my freedoms and choices to feminism, and I believe in the principles.
But won't risk calling yourself one. What do you think you will lose?
That's saying freedom. Of thought, the freedom to be confused, to see things in many ways.
What's the difference between openness and merely keeping your options open?
Good old-fashioned talk. Please, this is the black and white thing I mean. One difference of opinion and bingo, you're a hero or villain.
What you are saying is feminism works for you, and that's enough. But is it?
You're going to be there. If I say yes, I'm selfish. If I say no, well, it's my choice then. Or will you punish me, Master Pusha?
darling, I could spank you if you like.
Where I have to go. Let's talk about this some more. Here's my email.
So as you can, in this film, so Fearless, the character who you see typing, you never see her face throughout the film. And obviously she is the filmmaker, but she may not be also. Plus, she's making a film about feminism from a mixed position, which is like, yeah, I kind of believe in it, but I don't know if I want to call myself a feminist. And arguing continuously with these women in the chat room, she keeps talking to them about what is feminism, what it means. But the thing is, for me, as you can see from this chat room, every single thing I had been thinking for all those years is in this chat room. Why is everything so black and white in documentaries? Why is it that when somebody disagrees with you, you're automatically a hero or a villain? Why can't we have a conversation in which we disagree, but maybe we agree about some things? Why isn't there more fun? Why isn't sex mixed up with politics? And why aren't people really talking about the things that bother them? Like when people say that I don't want to be a feminist, it's not about a political ideology. Actually, they're scared that they won't find love. They're scared that they'll have to let go of all the things that they've always known. But I never saw anybody making documentaries talking about those ordinary feelings. And maybe I was a young person and I had all these thoughts and feelings and I thought, well, I'm just going to make a film out of those feelings. But the really big thing is, how do you make a film out of feelings? You actually can't do it just by shooting non-fiction. You do need certain artifice. That is what art is. Art is making into a concrete form the inconcrete thing of feeling, the intangible, the way somebody looks, a thought I have about someone, and uncertainty, doubt, all of these ideas, which are as much an important part of politics and political understanding. How do we render them into a shape? We do it through artifice. And this idea of artifice, which documentary always eschews, they be like, no, if you have artifice, if you have performance, that means it's somehow not true. But in fact, it is the real truth. It is the truth of what is inside us combined with what is outside us. The personal truth combined with the political truth. The the truth that I can be in a very cheerful mood while going through a very difficult time in my life. That I can be a poor person whose life is abject and still want to spend money on my daughter's wedding. These are the contradictions of life, and these are the different choices we make as human beings as we progress through lives. So rather than coming up with this rational argument, I will give you proof. When you have to do it, that's the right thing. None of us make decisions in life like that. None of our political journeys are like that. And actually art is that place in which that ambiguity is worked out. Because art is in a space of ambiguity where things are forming, where you're thinking about the thing which has not yet become, which is still becoming, which is in your mind, which is your emotions. And if we don't talk about these things the way we talk to friends when we're trying to make up our mind about something, if we don't have that conversation, if we're always forced to take a position, then we're actually never going to talk about anything real. So in a way, creating this kind of a fake persona in order to tell the film through the eyes of that persona, and the persona changes through the film. By the time she finishes the film, she's quite happy to be called a feminist, obviously. But the thing is, her journey is a complex journey. But Chunky Girl and Fearless, these two people, their disagreement is not polar in the film. It is that one says, I like the idea of feminism, but I don't want to call myself one. And the other one is saying like, dude, if you don't call yourself a feminist, you're just being a hypocrite. And the whole film is an argument between them, in which Fearless keeps going to inform herself better. It's kind of like if you want to win an Antakshari, you have to learn more songs. There's no automatically right or wrong thing. And Fearless wants to win an Antakshari, so she keeps going out and learning more about feminism and keeps coming back to chat room to have an argument until she arrives at a quite a relaxed state of agreement after informing herself in a certain way, right? So similarly, I made this other film called Cosmopolis, Two Tales of a City, which was about vegetarian buildings, right? So you know buildings in Bombay, there are buildings in Bombay only for vegetarians, right? So I wanted to make this, I'm a very hardcore non-vegetarian. So now the thing is, when I was making it, I tried to think, is it that all the people who don't want non-vegetarians to live in their building, are they just backward, fascist, bad people? Like, come on, most of India is vegetarian. Now the thing is, I have a very peculiar problem that I can't bear the smell of tea. I can't even sit next to people drinking tea. It's a mysterious ailment, right? And now I live in India, where everywhere people drink tea, and like every time I pass a chai ki takery on the street, I have to hold my breath because I hate the smell so much. I lived in tenement housing, so everybody in my small houses together, and everybody woke up in the morning and really cooked the tea, right? Every morning I used to feel very miserable that if I become politically powerful, I will stop the making of tea in houses and whatever. So if I think of my revulsion to tea as a beginning point, maybe I can see the person who hates non-vegetarian food differently. I don't agree with them, however. Like I have to bear the tea smells, I guess they have to bear the non-vegetarian smells. But I'm not coming to them with a gaze that you are automatically wrong. I'm trying to see what their point of view is, even though I don't agree with them, right? But again, how do I do this without sounding patronizing? So, this is how.
Came to a city by the sea, and someone took it in.
If you come to me, I want to have it. In 10 minutes, I will food. I have to give food to you, that is important. So these are fish, paplet, prawns, then fish, lobster. But lobster is very costly.
So that was my first meal in Bombay City. Mandeli curry and rice. It was so good. I decided to stay here forever. I blessed the city, and I said as long as I stay, the people here will never go hungry. Well, you can't keep a thing like that secret for long. So people were flying from everywhere, and they were eating. Oh, they ate. There were new restaurants opening every day. Who they think was in the market? It was me, Annapurna, goddess of food. It was such a wonderful time. All of us happy together. Puts me in a trance of thinking about it. Why do you not go?
Love somebody and then you don't reply the reason. Part of Bombay.
Bombay, anyone comes, immediately the person is accepted. We never feel that he is an outsider. We feel that he is from Bombay. And that Bombay's culture had great quality because of which Bombay has prospered.
Really, things were going quite well. And then she came along.
problem with Annapurna. I shouldn't be talking about my own sister like this, but she was always a jealous kind. You know, full of that sibling rivalry. She says live and let live, but really she wants everybody to be like her. Well, I don't like going out at night, mixing around with strangers, being the party girl. It's okay now. I'm happy like this. Anyway, you tell me, can you make a house out of onions and cucumbers and fish and whatnot? No, no. To lead a decent life, you require me, Lakshmi, goddess of wealth.
So in this film also there are these two characters, Annapurna, goddess of food, a little bit silly, but quite good-hearted. And Lakshmi, who's like that very child, mean girl, kind of, always does everything correctly, always wins. And the contest is between them for control over the city. But you kind of get a chance then to look at both people's point of view. At the same time, it's not like I, the filmmaker, have no point of view. I obviously do, and I communicate it. I don't want to communicate it with the idea that you should not think anything else. You may, and it's okay, right? I'm not here to convert you. I'm only here to converse with you in a sense. So I think we're almost out of time, right? So I need to stop soon. But the thing is, when I did this with a lot of films for quite a long time, and in later films, I haven't worked that much with this kind of a persona. Although I always have a voiceover and I always have a kind of mental character through whose perspective I tell the film. But in the filmmaking, it became a bit more submerged, because I think I needed to go through this journey of putting it out there and creating these characters who tell the film from a point of view, unreliable narrators but likable narrators. Your relationship with the narrator helps you to have a different type of relationship with the film, with the ideas. It also prevents you from bringing a stock response. It forces you in the most pleasurable of ways, I hope, to look at an idea which is familiar in a different way. Just to look at it with a fresh eye and maybe see different kind of thing about it, so that this film watching doesn't become just a kind of, experience like giving exam in class. It shouldn't be that way for us. The nice thing is that as you work longer and develop a body of work and more people engage with it, you also meet really smart people who have studied more than you and help you to understand your own work in a different way. So one of my friends in fact said to me that what you're doing, there is a tradition for it in India. This was a very empowering moment for me, because he said it's like being a Behavior. And when I began reading about it, I realized one of the reasons why I feel dissatisfied with the documentary forms that were available to us in India are because they've primarily been developed in the West for a Western notion of democracy and a relationship with society, which is obviously valid for its time and place, but now the world is different and relationships between people are different. But the documentary form, as we know it, was basically developed by the state to educate people about democracy, right? And that is a form that many people are still using. It's not inherently a democratic form in a way. It simply has the contents of democracy in some sense. So, to learn that there is an Indian non-fiction tradition, which is the only non-fiction tradition we have. Actually, all our traditions are of artifice, right? It's dance, it's fiction, it's music. There is no non-fiction tradition. But the Behrupya, for those who don't know, is a person who takes on a base, takes on the persona, and then lives in reality in that persona, and makes you think about that reality in a new way to that persona. In a certain way, it's like the court jester who will act a part and make the king see his follies in a different way. But except that this is really done like fully deadpan. Like you will really be Lord Shiva and you will be normally roaming around people and reflecting society back to itself. So it was actually amazing to discover that you instinctively form a connection when you're trying to communicate in your own culture, in terms of your own culture, with an older tradition which you may not already know about. But you sort of, it's like a kind of genetic or genealogical thing that you start doing it, that there is a kind of acting and there is a reality, and both the things are there together to communicate some larger truth. So I should come to an end. I'm going to end with showing you just something for fun. It's a film I made called Where's Sandra, which is about Catholic girls in Bandra. Now you all know this term Sandra from Bandra. And I wanted to talk about Sandra from Bandra because I feel like you can't tell the history of Bombay. Everybody's always said the history of Bombay, but always from the point of view of some buildings and some dudes, right? Like women don't figure in that history. Otherwise there will be the history of women inside Bombay, but not the history of Bombay as if women were part of Bombay, right? And the thing about Catholic ladies, they were the first women to go and work and to have fun, and it was all cool. And I was like, there should be a film about women like that, because the nature of Bombay, a place that is safe for women, that women go out and can be free in and also enjoy themselves in. Not just that they're going to work and back, but that they can have a good time. This is a thing in Bombay that we've always cherished. How was that even made possible when it's not so in every other city? And it's just because of Catholic ladies like the Sandra from Bandra, right? So I'm going to show you a song. So I did a song picturization in the film, because I wanted to also say that actually it's not like when you talk about stereotypes of women. Women are being objectified. Oh my God, you're talking about minorities in a rude way. The thing is, that is not the only way to look at things. It's a lot to do with your own nazar, how you look at something. And the fact is, there is some truth when we make jokes about accents, when we make jokes about clothes. But that truth doesn't have to be a mean truth. It can be a loving truth. Like you make fun of people in your family for the way they are. You do it with affection, you don't do it with contempt. So it's only a matter of showing you again that it is possible to look at. I didn't think of Sandra from Bandra in a contemptuous way. I don't want it to be like that, right? So I'm going to show you two clips actually, one 30-second clip and then one song clip. So this is how the film starts.
I always liked the girl on the side of the picture. The one in the dress. The one whose love story it wasn't. Unlike the girl who got the guy, her eyes were always shining, but not with tears. She seemed always ready for a laugh, for a song, for a good time. They told me her name was Sandra.
So, I mean, if you remember the Sandra figures in the movies, that brings me to the end of my family talk. There's some questions, yeah, if anybody wants to say something or...
What are you doing now?
So now I am working on a digital project. So going to be a website about sex, and it's going to have like a lot of small films and different kinds of media on it. I'm going to be doing it with a bunch of different people, not just doing off on my own.
So how have the old school documentary filmmakers reacted to the way you play with the form and bring in fiction and bring in this fun and everything?
So I mean, first of all, it's also not so monolithic, I guess. I think it's what I said at the beginning, that I do respect a lot of what came before me. And like everybody, generationally, you always say some things are not valid and you make something else, but you also build on what came before you. I'd say that I carry the DNA of that filmmaking quite a bit, because unlike, I would say, present generation of young filmmakers, I'm actually deeply concerned with impacting the world. Like those filmmakers who came before me, I'm very interested in communicating and reaching out to a larger audience with a view to changing the world. So it's not actually that different. It's just that I want to do it very differently. That said, like some people loved it. When Unlimited Girls was made, which was my scary thing, it was the first time I made such a film and the first time such a film got made. So at that time, some filmmakers loved it, which took me by surprise, like older filmmakers. And they were just like, it's great, you've just done, like, I feel like I've missed the bus, but I don't mind. That sort of thing. Which means they haven't missed the bus, but they're just happy that somebody has played with the form, and it's also a new voice for a younger generation. Not everybody at an individual level is able to feel good about that. Some filmmakers just felt like, like one senior filmmaker went to meet another senior filmmaker and she said, come on, let's bitch about Unlimited Girls because it was a new big movie. And then my friend said, I love that film, why should we bitch about it? She said, oh my god, it's basically going to destroy the entire documentary scene and it's like a masala movie and that's not how documentaries are supposed to be. But so this filmmaker who said these things, I see where she's coming from because it's so unorthodox and you do feel like, but okay, maybe it's fine for people like us. It's always that, isn't it? The censorship is like, hum log ko samajh mein aata hai, but will common people understand what she's trying to say? They just think it's songs and fake ads and fun. But that's not how it is, first of all, right? So that's an anxiety. I also feel that over the years, many older filmmakers who were irritated with me and thought I was a bit of an upstart. They also saw that I really respect what they do. And one of the reasons why I'm not putting I don't want to make films like they made is because I feel they did it. And I don't have to reinvent that wheel. I don't have to act like nobody came before me. Actually, the respect lies in acting like they came before me and now I'm the next thing. And there'll be a next thing after me and that's the way of the world. So I feel like over the years, when you keep engaging with each other, when I keep showing that love and respect, and I keep asking for them to engage with my work, actually now, it's not that way. And anyway, now I'm also old, so there are other people to feel irritated with, right? So
Yeah, I'm a friend of Anand Patwari, who was your first boss, as you mentioned. And what is your difference of opinion? You don't like his style, the way he says?
I never said that.
No, you didn't say it, but I'm asking. I know him, and just because I know him doesn't mean I agree with whatever he's saying, because I have some serious disagreements with him. In fact, when he made that film...
So I'm going to say one thing, I'm going to interrupt you. Because actually what Anand does must be addressed to Anand. So I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about my own work, actually talking about Anand's work.
No problem. But I just wanted to know what was the there is a basic difference in approach between the way you see things and the way he did. And I want to know from your side, what was the basic?
I think I've spoken at length about my approach, right? And obviously it is a different approach which is linked like that Antakshari linked to a concern with the world, a concern with politics, a concern with equality and ideas about society and politics. And he does have a very different form, right? And it's a classical form that he has perfected, a kind of political essay form which I think he is a master of. I feel that he was such a master of it, and for such a long time Anand was the only really big filmmaker working in India. So it did become a template. So when Anand makes a film the way he makes it, it is his personal form. And that's why it has got a certain vitality in it. You can disagree with it. It has its own vitality of an individual who wants to make a film in a certain way. When other people simply mimic that form becomes meaningless. No form is automatically political. I guess that is the really important thing. So I'm like, every filmmaker, there will be many people who disagree with my form, right? And if a lot of young people mimic it, like people are like, I want to make a film like Unlimited Girls, so they mimic it. But their mimicking the form will not really energize their politics. Only I can make the films that I make, the way I make them. And so it is with Anand also. I learned a lot from working with Anand because also it revealed an entire world of politics and the way politics and art is interwoven. An entire generation of people actually, who were middle class people, who went out and did something quite different from what their parents had done. So that was a very valuable learning for me.
But I like to comment because finally it's about connection. Whether it's a book or an art or something, it should tell you something about in a unique sort of way. And you may not agree. So even the book moves you to tears or moves you to hate or something, there is some connection which has taken place, which is the basic requirement of art, that it should move you. And if your film moves a particular person and you make the connection, you've done your job. So
I agree. I mean, the thing is, everybody will not like or hate a film. So a filmmaker desiring to do that is really trying to conquer the world, right? And you can't conquer the world. You can only make what you make.
Can you say something about your column?
Yes, please do.
Can you say something about
can I say something about my column?
I mean, how do you do it?
I mean, it's my job to do it. I do it with a lot of suffering before the deadline time. That's all I can say. Other than that, for me, I think the column writing is very different from the filmmaking because it has to be done every week. Yeah, the filmmaking is like one thing. So filmmaking is like, make one film for 1 year sometimes. Some films, like Cosmopolis, we made it in about 8 or 9 days, like at high speed. But sometimes in a long film, Unlimited Girls took a year to make. So it's a very different exercise than putting out a column every week. Doing that weekly practice it's a fantastic thing. I think filmmakers don't get the luck, unlike singers or dancers, to do that daily riyaz, And doing riyaz it's fundamental of being an artist. You must all the time be practicing, learning. That's the only way you learn how to judge yourself. And in a way, like, I write 2 columns, right? So I write a column about love, modern love in the Mumbai Mirror, and one about kind of opinion column on culture and politics in Midday. So I also try to do the 2 columns very differently, because then for me as a writer, it becomes a practice to see how I can be different from the same person. With Midday, especially because it's more in the mode of the documentaries, and it's also political, but also social. Also, it's in a mainstream tabloid paper that really matters to me. Like, everybody in Bombay needs Sunday Midday. And I want to be able to write something well. I disagree with people who say that regular folks don't need beautiful things. I just disagree with that. We'll make any shit movie and market the hell out of it, because people don't really care about beauty. But that's not true. I think I want to write high quality writing in a mainstream paper with high quality thinking. I work very, very hard. I finished 5 years of Midday, but every column for me is like the first time I'm writing. I really work hard at it, because I just think if you don't give people stuff of quality, you won't get back a response of quality. You won't start a conversation that has quality. Now, actually, my column has grown in popularity, and that's been a learning for me, that it's not that people don't want to understand. It's not that any idea is too complex for people. But yeah, it's good practice for me to learn how to communicate my ideas a little bit more simply, not take the audience for granted. It's a faceless audience, it's not like documentary. People are sitting, you're in the room, right, in a documentary, you can feel it. Like some screenings are fully dud. And like, oh, I missed a bad film and I'm forcing these people to watch it. And some audiences are really responding to your film. But in the column, you don't know. You don't know who's reading, who's not reading. Like today, Salman Khan, I got full galis, so I was like, okay, a lot of people read it and got pissed off at me. At least I know they're alive. And there may be people who love it, but they don't ever tell you that. So you also have to do it in a selfless kind of way every week with no sure guarantee of what's happening. I think all those things are good for artists. It keeps you totally humble, keeps you hardworking, and yeah, it's a test every week.
Do you get a lot of hate mail? Do you get a lot of mail?
I get a lot of love mail because I'm very interested in loving and being loved, not really hating and being hated. Like, I don't make confrontational work.
No, because I think it's an Indian characteristic not to say what you feel.
Yeah.
This is what my observation is. I also I've made a film myself, documentary film myself, and I'm basically interested in human beings and human behavior. And I find one of the factors, I've been in the US, worked in the US and come back here, I find they are much more open. They'll talk about their boss in a way that nobody in India can talk about his boss. I've seen that. So one is that communicative, we are not very communicative. I write a lot of mail for a club which I run, and I hardly get any responses, maybe 2 or 3, and invariably there are a lot of people who want to say something but don't say. So I even started an essay contest, write about your thoughts, but zilch. Absolutely. So I don't know what your experience is. Midday, of course, is very widely there.
So I get a lot of mail. I do. Very little of it is hate mail. So much so that, in fact, the first time that I got it, I started crying. Because I was not used to it. I was always used to getting nice things, and I was like, oh my God, somebody hates me. But the thing is that I think you can't force people to talk, right? All you can do is say what you think. You can put out yourself in the world. I think it's very important to do that by taking some risk. If you don't make yourself vulnerable as a writer, as a filmmaker, as any kind of performer, then why should the other person make themselves vulnerable? And I do feel that the mail that I get, it always makes me weep. Not always, but often makes me weep. Because people tell you things that are so beautiful. Like, I got a letter from a guy who happened to read an old column of mine in which I mentioned a song by a women's group called Main Achhi Hu Ghabrao Na Ko Aisa Khat Mein Likho. And he's like, my mother used to sing this song all the time. And she said she had heard it in a women's group, but she couldn't remember where. And then I read your column, so now I can tell her where it's from. And I feel kind of really happy about it. Now, he doesn't need to write and tell me this. He could have just given it to his mother. But obviously the emotion moved him to do it. I think people do, but I think we also need to create communication channels which are much gentler than we are really doing most of the time.
This might seem off topic because you didn't refer to the subject. You made an amazing film on copyright, issue copyright. I just wonder how that happened.
See, I'm like
a subject like that and flowed us with it.
Copyright film, I made a film on copyright and capitalism, which I got asked to make, and I said I'm not making it because it's a very boring topic and I don't feel bored. But the thing is that when you find an in point into a topic, which is kind of like all my films not all, but most of my films are commercial films. So, and I'll make a film for anybody if they'll give me money to make a film, because it's hard to get money to make a film. Inside that, I do some tod mode and try to get my own thing in, right? So with the copyright film also, I actually needed to understand what was my connection to it. And in fact, very similar to what you said about Junoon Team, when I began researching the copyright film, I realized that copyright is really about controlling the relationship between artists and audiences. The relationship between the artist and the audience is a relationship of love. If you love what I do, you will believe in me, you will come back, you will pay for it, it's a relationship of love. And then if you love me, you will tell other people, oh my God, her film is fantastic, you've got to see it. And that's how people become popular and known, right? Now when the corporation comes in and says, I'm going to monetize that, I'm going to systematize it, that's fine, you systematize it to an extent. But if you systematize it in a way that you take all the love out of it and you only keep the grit, that's when you get a kind of disruption. So the idea of piracy or the idea of copyleft is also kind of evolutionary pushback in a response to the idea that you don't let people have their own relationship with art. You're constraining it through many, many things. Right? And I guess once I began to understand that, because these things are very important to me, that presence of art in people's lives makes them more beautiful, more kind, more open, more intelligent. I really believe that. And if you're not going to let that thrive, that means it's like every day having to eat a tasteless tomato. Every single day you're going to give me a tasteless tomato to eat, because that's more economical. There's economy of scale in it, right? When are you going to give me something beautiful to taste that will make me feel happy, right? So this thing, once I figured this out, that that's what copyright is really about, and after making the film was like a joyful and learning experience.
Paromita, we have time for one more question.
Sorry, just one more question. One of the things that strikes me, one thing you said that really struck me was this, your ability to be inside the system and to sort of recognize the existing hierarchies and the existing ways of receiving or ways of sending out documentary filmmakers. You said it was very top-down, very, I will say the word by informing you and this moment you will make you know and so on. To be able to subvert that takes a combination of a sense of humor and some kind of ability to manage that. It's a bit of a tightrope act that you pull off by addressing that entrenched sort of behavior.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what in your background helped you get there? What about what the way you did it was conscious? What the way you did it was not conscious? For your branding, I
mean, if you can't, I don't think you can do that consciously. What you're saying, I think it's true that you feel like a fish, right? Always like somehow swimming through. But I feel the root of it is, retrospectively speaking, the root of it is actually in my critique of the films that existed before, which are inherently confrontational. They confront you like, I am right and you are wrong. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say those are films made by guys. They're very masculine in their tendency, and they're warrior films. I am the hardened warrior. I have the beard. I have the upheld head, and I will go out and I will fight this way. Yeah, and so it's a kind of performance. Everything is a performance. So that kind of very masculine performance in which I will confront the other side and I will vanquish it. That doesn't really change the terms of the debate, right? So we are like endlessly stuck in this kind of, now the boys from the right wing will say something, then the boys from the left wing will say something. So actually you don't have to play that game. You just don't, if it bores you, and it bores me to tears, you don't have to play it. You just go and you play some other game, and you hope that some kids from the building will come down and play with you. And if you're like, your game is exciting enough, they'll play with you, right? That's really what it was. And also because if you always approach from a place where you say you are wrong, then that's not going to help people to think about themselves. Instead, if you just make what you want to make as a suggestion, it's only an offering. Like it's making a performative offering of an idea. Like this is one way to do it. How about this one? Do you like it? So in that way, it's very much that Behrupia concept, right? I'll just play this part. Now tell me how it makes you feel. You may not hate it so much. You may agree with the powerful. So I think that's really, in a sense, what has helped a lot. But also really means having to stay away from getting big money. Like if you want to be in that system, no, I've never gotten very big money to make films. So there is that trade-off. I don't really mind it. Like my writing helps me to kind of survive. Documentary filmmaking doesn't always. But I get to make whatever I want. So that's a very big thing to get back in return.
Thank you.